Welcome to another Verbling class. Tonight's class is Project Communications Management. It's a conversation class where we talk about projects with terminology related to project management. Hello, Wilson.
Hello, how are you? Good night.
Good. Are you from Brazil?
Yes, I'm from Brazil. You can see by the flag.
Yeah, I'm a little clairvoyant. Yeah, what part of Brazil, north or south?
I'm in the south of Brazil, São Paulo state.
Oh, very
The
nice.
city of-
Yes.
The city of the São Paulo too.
I understand that you have great traffic problems there.
Yes, for sure.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad you-
20 million inhabitants, okay, in the metropolitan area. You can see how many cars we have.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh,
And where do you live? Where do you live? Canada. Ah, okay. Canada is a good place to live. It's cold, but it's a good place to live.
well, you say that. It's cold in the winter. Summer, it's not cold at all for the
Not
whole
cold?
2 months.
Ah, okay. I've been to Toronto many times, okay, and every time I went there, it was very cold.
Well, the summer it does get very hot, gets into the 30 degrees. But yeah, we're here not to talk about that. We're here to talk about project management.
Project management. Okay.
And we'll get started
management in
soon.
Toronto, Canada.
Just give me a second because I want to say hi to the other students, and then we'll go ahead and we'll break in. So, Jar, welcome back, Jar.
Hello, teacher.
How was your week?
Oh, it was good. I am traveling yet, and it was everything okay.
Good. Do you do any project management?
If I did? Yes, I work with projects all the time, and I have a master degree in project management as well.
Oh, perfect. You're going to love this class.
Yes, maybe I can review many concepts.
Well, the main focus of this class is to have a discussion, a conversation using project management terminology. And the focus of this class is going to be on project communications management. I'll speak more of that shortly. So stay tuned, Jar.
Okay, thank you.
Edson, welcome back.
Hello. It has been so long.
Yes, it has been a
since
long
we
time.
met.
It has indeed.
Just milliseconds and that's it.
Yes, indeed. Now, Edson, do you do any project management?
No, and actually I do.
Most of us
Kind
do.
of, but yes. For example, I use my computer and a lot. Yeah, actually, many.
Okay, excellent. Well, let's get started here. I just want to do some more introductions. And welcome back, Omar.
Yeah. How are you? Fine.
I'm good. Omar, do you do any project management?
Well, no. If you mean project management as something for business for now, no. I'm not doing any project in this field, but I'm doing some project in my work, as a dental, as you see in some research, but starting, yeah.
Okay. Well, what I want to do now, and this is to everybody, I'm going to talk a little bit. This is the boring part where I do some talking, and I'm going to ask open questions where anybody can answer. So I want to make sure we're all aware of basic vocabulary, such as what is a project? Can anybody tell me what a project is? Anyone at all? Take a guess, anyone. What is a project?
Project has a lot of meanings, like.
Well, not according. So according to the PMI, and that's what I'm going with here. I'm aligning myself with the Project Management Institute. A project can only be a certain type of thing. There is a certain definition of a project. So I want you to give it a shot. What do you think a project is?
I think a project is it's a task that you can create, for instance, or a sequence of tasks to create a product, to install a software, a program, and then do you have how can I say, a result of this? Okay, a sequence of tasks to get a product, a service, and to get the results.
Perfect. So yeah, a project will will provide a product, a service, or a result.
Ah, what a result. Okay.
Right? And a result could be a report, right? So that's part of the definition. Well, what else is a project, guys? How is building a bridge a project and picking up garbage not a project, right? So some things are projects and some things aren't. What else? What else defines a project?
For example, on a building. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Edson, so how it,
In a building, you have, for example, you have the piece of paper that you design the building, and you have some goals to accomplish.
okay, so you need to achieve a goal, right? So this is
Yes,
very important. A
yeah,
project is about achieving a goal to meet the
yes, yeah.
requirements that the project was started to achieve, right? So there's
Yes.
certain goals and objectives that a project must achieve to be successful. So that's good. Now I'm looking for one more thing, and this is very, very simple.
I think there's a schedule, a timeline, a budget, or something like that.
Oh no.
Yes.
Okay, back up. Schedule. What about a schedule?
Schedule, yes. You start and end, so that's a project. Okay?
Yes, okay, right there. This is very important. As a start date and an end date. Okay? That's what I'm just gonna stick with that today. So here's one of your first words that we have learned. You all knew what project management was in your own way, but now we've learned what it is in terms of an industry term blessed by the Project Management Institute. A project produces a product, service, or result that must achieve goals or objectives laid out as the purpose for the project to begin with. You have to have goals and objectives that what we call scope. But a project must have a start date and an end date. Otherwise, it's not a project. Building a bridge is a project. Fixing potholes is not, because that's something as a city we do all the time. It is not a project. It's what we call it's operations. Right?
Because it's not needing planning or something.
No, not true at all. Everything we do requires some sort of planning. For example, potholes. To be efficient, I have to plan my route, my materials. But it's ongoing. That's the difference. A project is not ongoing. A project does have an end date.
You mean the planning, which you need steps to be achieved?
Well, everything involves planning. So a project has a budget for the duration of the project. That's it. An operational activity has an annual budget. It doesn't go away. It's something that's always there. So, for example, to pave a road is a project. To maintain that road is operational. Okay? So I'm going to do a little bit.
You mean a project? It's mostly for establishing something which take a longer duration.
Got nothing to do with time. No. Listen here. So I've already typed it in the group chat. So this is what a project is. It has a start date and an end date. It produces a unique product, service, or result. It has goals and objectives. That's a very high-level definition of what a project is. It could last years, could even last decades. Think of the Mars program. That will last decades to get a man on Mars. But then again, after a while, it can become an operational activity. So I want to talk to you a bit now about communications management. This is a little boring. I'm going to do some reading, and then trust me, you guys are going to get a chance to discuss. So project communication management includes the processes. Okay? Think of these as activities that are planned. It includes the processes that are required to ensure timely and appropriate planning, collection, creation, distribution, all these words here for a single purpose. And that is the ultimate disposition of project information. Okay? So that's what communication is. To communicate, we need information, right? Somebody has information, somebody doesn't. That communicating is getting everybody to have the same bit of information. And I want you to look at the words here that I've highlighted. So, project communications management is a process or the processes required to ensure all these things here related to communication. Timely. It's very important that we get the information in time. We need to do some planning. We need to collect information. Sometimes we have to create information. And think about this. On a large project, just conveying or distributing that information can be a large undertaking. Okay? It's about project information. That's what communication is. It's all about project information. And there's really three processes, according to the PEM book, which is produced by the PMI. Again, these are all standards-based, guys. I'm not making this stuff up. This is not something I've come up with by myself. So there's three main processes that we have. The first one is, well, we've got to plan. We've got to plan communications management. And here we gather and analyze information. Then we've got to manage communications. Okay? This is the creation, distribution, retrieval, storage of information. Then we have to control the information. Who gets what? For how long? How long does the information need to live and survive? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this up on the screen for a while. I'm going to increase the size so it's easier. I think I can increase the size. Let me just see. Let's zoom in. Because I want you guys to be able to see this while we talk. Okay, now as promised, this is where we move into a conversation. I'm going to give each of you 2 minutes. And what I would like you to do is talk about a project you've been on. Now, if you're like Omar and you think, well, I don't really do a lot of project management, think of something you were doing that had a start and an end date. It could be for work or for your own person, for your own selves. And I want you to tell me about how communication was very important. Or I want you to tell me about how something went very wrong because communication didn't properly happen. So again, I want you to tell me about a project you worked on where there was some sort of communication failure. I'm going to go ahead and start with Wilson. Wilson.
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes. Okay.
Go ahead. You've got 2 minutes.
I think I've been a manager of projects since 10 years. Mm-hmm. And I do think that communication is the biggest task of the manager. Okay, I've heard and I read something that 90% of the manager's time in a project is communicating to the stakeholders, to the persons, to the employee, to everybody that's involved in the project. And I agree. Okay, because I work with IT, information technology, and then it's it's needed. Okay, the kickoff meeting of the project, and during the project, you need to send the right information to the right people. That's it.
That's brilliant.
Yes, and choose the right channel. Okay, emails, writing, or memos, or conversation and meeting. This kind of thing.
Project progress meetings, these are an excellent way to level the playing field in communication, aren't they?
Yes, yes, for sure.
Well, very good. I want to talk on that a bit more. So I'm a project manager, guys. I'm actually a certified project manager. I'm also a business architect. And one thing that is very, very important is having project progress meetings. A lot of people call these status meetings, but we don't want the status of a project. We want the progress. We want to know what's been done since the last meeting, what's planned. Well, no, we'll start off. What's been done since the last meeting, what issues we have, what action items we have, any risks that have been identified, and we want to look at these. So all these action items, are they on schedule? Very important. Is there anything that needs to be done to ensure that these are done on time? Once we've gotten that out of the way, then we talk about the next couple of weeks or next couple of months, depending on how frequent your meetings are. In software development, you might want to do these daily in the morning as a scrum to review things, make sure everybody's on schedule. For most projects, you will probably do this once a week. You might even have multiple of these depending on your audience. So very, very good, Wilson. Very, very good point about communication, how it's important, and the way we communicate, the channels. And when we say channel, we're not talking about TV channels. We're talking about the method. Email, phone, in person, video conferencing, Google Hangouts, right? Let me just unshare the screen now. Google Hangouts, this is a very good channel. All right, next, Jar, you've got 2 minutes. Tell me about a project you worked on and where communication broke down, or where you can talk about the importance of communication. Jar, you're on mute.
Okay, I'm here.
Thank you.
I developed a project a few months ago, and communication was very important because I have to connect five departments in my company, and there were more 5 suppliers, and communication was very important because we had to set a timeline with many activities, and it was one project for my company, but each supplier had their one project, and in the end we have to connect all the suppliers because we need, for instance, to produce a product, we need a supplier to supply us a box, a primary packaging, a label, a machine, and yes, we had many things to connect. And we set a plan for communication. For instance, each month we join the whole team to talk about the project. We invite suppliers. We talk about the timeline, how we were advanced. When we had a problem, we had a formal communication by email, and the next day we have a video conference. And communication was very important because when you have more than one department or more person, we need to connect and communicate all the time.
Thank you.
And yes, okay.
So sorry, time is up. Now, what I want to bring up there is planning. We talked about that as one of the processes we do, one of the first ones we do. So besides JAR, because you were just speaking about that, and I want to tie it back to what you said, when do we plan, guys? Do we do it once? Who can chime in? How often do we plan?
We need to plan at the beginning of the project before start doing anything. Okay.
We
Then
do. Is
yeah.
that it? Do we? Do
And
we?
then during the project you review the plan. Okay, in order
Mhm.
to adapt some because you face problems. Okay, during the development of a project, things may change, and then you need sometimes to replan and make the corrections needed.
Very good. Very good. And Jar said this. He says we meet periodically, and sometimes we change things. And you have a plan. We call it a plan for a reason. It's what you intend to do.
Then there are the delays as well.
Well, I'll get to that. We have a plan. It's what we intend to do. Then things happen. I said things. It's a very vague word for a good reason because anything can happen. We're talking about the environment. Anything can happen. At which point, you will periodically review your plan. And part of this is what we call monitor and control. Okay? Yes, it's correct. We plan at the beginning, but we don't stop the planning. We have to look at the plan, review it. Is it working? Do we need to make a change? Right? And that's very good. You just don't make a plan, put it on the shelf and say, this is the plan, we're going to stick to it. No, you don't stick to a plan. You sometimes have to modify the plan. You have to stick to your scope, schedule, and budget unless, and that's really another topic, unless, of course, you've been given the approval to change the budget, schedule, and scope. There's nothing wrong with change, guys. There's nothing wrong with going over budget as long as it's managed and approved. That's according to project management. Edson, you've got 2 minutes. Tell us your thoughts on project management, and can you give us an example of a project you worked on that wasn't successful?
For example, I am currently working in a building houses, but not especially house, but it's like an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And we are facing nowadays is, as you mentioned, monitoring control, but you need to reschedule your project. Like you, for example, we are facing some project problems in with the location, the area. For example, we are facing sometimes it's raining and it causes some delays, and I have to every single time reschedule the schedule. And my team is, of course, my team is big, and I have to get in control of the situation, and I have to get in contact with guys to buy material, and like steel and some metal and wood to construct the apartment. And this is difficult because you are leading with people, and you are dealing with you need to wait from the products, like the material, like the wood and the steel, and getting control of those people are difficult because sometimes someone
Thank you.
go to work.
You brought up something very important here. So remember I said things can happen. One of those things is weather. I'm going to use an example of something everyone here is familiar with. Building roads. In particular, a large highway. Now, this is something that can be done most of the year, but it can't be done during tornadoes. It can't be done during the extreme cold. So weather can affect projects. It can really plague projects. And so communication is very, very important. If you're in an area where weather greatly impacts your projects, you need to have a very good communication plan in place. For example, here in Canada, the weather can shut down entire cities. People have to have plans in place to deal with the weather. Okay? Now what's important here, though, and this deals with something else in project management, it's project risk management. And that's identifying risk. If you work outside, if you're dealing with weather, then you need some sort of risk management plan. You have to identify weather as a risk. For example, weather forecasters are predicting a very cold winter, or a very hot summer, or a very wet summer. What can you do to mitigate that or transfer the risk? Well, if the weather's good now, you can go to your manager and say, look, we have a risk that we're going to have a very bad, unproductive summer that's going to cost us and increase the schedule. Both not good. However, boss, if we go ahead and work overtime now, yes, it'll cost us money, but it won't increase the schedule. And so your risk, identifying risks that can impact your end date, which will impact your costs and your schedule, is very important. So this is one thing you notice about project management. You could be focusing on communications and planning your communications, but as you're planning that, you're realizing, hey, I'm identifying risks as well. Thank you very much, Edson. Omar, can you give us an example of a project you worked on where there was a communication failure?
Well, maybe I will talk it as a general, if you don't mind. I think that project. When you talk about project, I remember that when I work with, when I use the GPS in getting to the road. Actually, what I understand from the conversation is about project management. It's like when I want to go to a specific place and I have my GPS. Okay, so if I go on the road and it's stuck, the GPS direct show me another place to reach. Maybe I will be delayed, but finally I will reach to the same point that I want. Actually, the project almost the same. If we stuck to any risk thing, we should have some substitution to correct our goals. Also, I think if I talk as a general, project is starting from starting from right team, and it starts also choosing the right planning from the beginning, and to understand the situation of the thing we should do and the circumference or environment, as Edson said, environment of the place that it can occur in this area. Mm-hmm.
Right. So managing communications is a big piece of that, right?
Yeah.
So you can have a plan in place, but if all you do is stick it on a shelf somewhere, then it doesn't do any good. You need to actively manage communications. That is very, very important. I think it was Wilson who said this, but I really, really agree, and I think this is important, that communication is one of the things you do the most. I'm working on a project right now. It's a very small project, but we're successful, and I measure my success this way. The last group that attempted this project spent 1.5 years and did not get anywhere. I'm giving them their first deliverable in 2 weeks, and I expect to be done within 5. But there's a huge communication piece, and at the next progress meeting next Tuesday, I have some very, very important information to communicate, which could drastically change the end deliverable. but I need to be clear. I need everyone to understand what this does to our scope. So it's about communicating, and the communicating is very, very important here because it will impact what they end up getting. All right, last but not least is Keiko. Keiko, we're talking about projects. Can you tell us about a project you worked on where communication failed, or the project failed because people didn't communicate? Keiko, you've got just under 2 minutes.
Teacher, I can tell you about a project in which I worked, where the communication took a very important role, but happily the project was successful. It was the preparation of the company to candidate to the certification ISO 9001.
Mm-hmm.
It was an educational institution, and then we designed the project, establishing the objectives, the scope of the certification, who would in the project, when the activities would be accomplished, the schedule, and we meet with the people to communicate our goals, our objectives, involving all the co-workers and the high administration. With
Keiko, I'm not hearing anything bad here, and one of the things I was asking for is examples of communication breakdowns. What you're talking about is very important, all the things that need to be done in planning communications. I want to put this back up on the screen, what I had up earlier at the beginning of class. I want to leave it there for a little bit. Because again, what I'm really trying to do here today is introduce vocabulary for you guys to discuss. We already talked about what a project is. A project has a start date. It has an end date. There are no exceptions to that. A project produces a unique product, service, or result. And it has an objective, a goal to achieve. And as long as the conditions remain for those objectives to be met, the project should continue. If, however, at some point conditions change in that project, the goal or objective can no longer happen, the project should close. There are examples of this. You might be working on a software project for a company. Then you get bought out by another company. That need no longer exists, nor does the project. But we're talking about communication here, project communications management. And there are 3 processes where we plan. And that's gathering and analyzing information, stakeholder information. Okay? And by doing all this, we can come up with the appropriate communications plan. Then the next process is about gathering project information for communications, the creation, distribution, storage, retrieval, and eventually the disposition. And this is done in accordance with law, legislation, and of course your communications plan. And of course controlling it. Who gets to see what? Right? Throughout the project life cycle. Who gets to see what? Because why is this important? Well, it ensures that the information needs of the project stakeholders are met. When we start a project, certain people must get certain information. We need to ensure that happens. Communication is very important to the overall success of the project. Now, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to give you guys 4 minutes of talk time. And I'm going to be quiet. I'm not going to talk as much here. So I'm going to pair you up. We're first going to have Jar and Wilson. Now, you two may never have talked with each other, so maybe the best way to start off was with some introductions and small talk. Where are you from? What kind of work you do? And then get into a discussion about the importance of communication on projects. Here's what I recommend. Okay? I'm trying to type at the same time I talk. It's not working well. Experience. Your experience. That's not how we spell experience, but we want to talk about experience. The second thing we want to do, failures in communication. This is how we learn. And of course, if you're going to talk about failures, you can also talk about successes. Right? So gentlemen, you have 4 minutes starting now. Go ahead, please.
Okay, let me introduce myself. My name is Wilson. I live in Brazil. I'm an engineer, but I've been working with IT for 15 to 16 years, and I was involved in many different projects. Okay, it's a local project, international project, and for sure, I think communication, by my experience, is far the most important thing a manager is responsible in a project. And talking about failures, once in a project we didn't not define a control of the information. And then we save all the information in a hard disk, and we had no specific control who can access what. And then the budget of the project was assessed by people that could not or should not see the numbers, and it was a mess. So communication is important, but you need to control, you need to manage. To the stakeholder, summary information, to the daily working people, some details, but for the tasks they are
Sorry, let me
doing.
interrupt there. So
Yes.
you've got 4 minutes as a conversation.
Okay,
and
okay.
You've got to have a conversation with your partner there, because if you take all the time, he doesn't have any time to respond.
Okay. That's the first time I participate in this kind of process. Okay, so communication is very important indeed.
Okay, Wilson, I am Jar. I'm from Brazil. I work with a project as well, and I think communication is very important. But I think something before you start a communication plan is you identify the stakeholders, because sometimes you can communicate very well, but if you don't communicate the right person at the right time, your project can fail as well. So for me, this is a key when I am doing a communication plan. But yes, I think we can always learn with our projects and plan better for the next time. By the way, I have a question for you, Wilson. Why you work with IT, right? And why we have so many problems when some new tool or some new problem are installed in our companies? Because people complain a lot, and I always think maybe one day I can ask an expert like you.
Okay. I think that many problems occur or happen because of the management of the project, okay? Defining the scope is very important. If you don't know what you want to do and the targets you want, maybe when they finish the implementation of the system, you won't get what you want. So defining the scope, I think it's a very important thing too. And talking about stakeholders are everybody that's involved to the project. So the sponsor, the employees, the manager, the users. So you're right. You need to define for each one what kind of information you need. And I work with IT because I graduated as an engineer, and at that time the market was very, very demanding for IT guys. Then I started my specialization. So here I am.
Okay. What?
Thank you very much, guys.
Okay.
All right, so next we're going to go on to Edson and Francisco. Now, keep in mind, it's only 4 minutes, so make sure you don't take all the talk time. All right, so again, we're talking about project communications management. The reason why I have the screen shared out is so you can see the vocabulary that we're talking about today. This terminology is very important in business, specifically for those working around projects. You might not be a project manager, but I can guarantee you, you'll be involved in a project at some point, even if merely as a stakeholder. All right, Francisco and Edson, go ahead, please. You've got 4 minutes.
Hi, Francisco.
Hi, Edson.
Well, like I am building technician, and I manage the project, the starter, the end, and the beginning, the end, and there were some ways that we sometimes we can face some problems. Like as I mentioned, one problem that we faced in construction is the weather, and but as well as the communication with people, because you need another guy because to bring to you a product like steel, for example, to continue the building. And sometimes that guy does not give you what you need to keep, and then you stop your project. Then you have delay, not just because of the weather, but because of the people. Uh,
Yes, Edson, I agree with you. I think that, well, here the main person on the project is the project manager. The project manager is responsible in transmitting all the information that he has from the stakeholders to, I don't know, to the developers or the technicians or the people involved in the project. So I think if, the communication is very important. It's very important to get a charger or get a project to get it on time and get it on budget. I don't know if have you ever been involved in a, I don't know, in a project who is very urgent,
who is what?
in a project that it's very urgent to deliver.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. And this is sometimes this is terrible because you have time to give your project or to deliver your project, and when it happens, you getting crazy sometimes.
Yes, most of the time, if you are in a hurry or you have to deliver, I don't know, software or you have to deliver a product. Well, sometimes you have to deliver to have some deliveries maybe weekly or daily. It depends on the project manager. But well, this I think uh, this is a big responsibility for the project manager.
Yeah.
And sometimes, well, it's very hard for the developers to follow that cycle because sometimes it's very hard to follow that kind of projects.
And sometimes you need to pay taxes because of the delays, or because, for example, the other guy he wants his project, but he doesn't care about the weather, if it's delaying or not. It doesn't matter. He doesn't care about anything. And then if you delay, you need to pay taxes for him and because of the project, and it's kind of complicated situation. When you fail the project.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. An interesting point to comment on. It's the project manager's responsibility to ensure communication. And this is true, the project manager is ultimately responsible. But everybody has a key part to play, and it's always important to realize what you're doing has a key role as well. So if you're having trouble with something, if you're having issues, don't be quiet. Communicate with your manager or communicate with other people you're working directly with. You do not want to be the person who's the bottleneck. You don't want to be the person that's blamed. So if things aren't going well and people aren't listening to you, elevate the discussion. Make sure that you're not seen as the person causing the roadblock. Okay, next we have Kecal and Omar. So again, guys, introduce yourselves, talk about the type of work you do, and the importance of project communication. I do encourage you guys to use the vocabulary that you see on the screen. You know, even if it's just manage, plan, and control communications. Mm-hmm. So, gentlemen, go ahead. You've got 4 minutes, starting now, please.
Hello, Coach. I am Omar. I am actually a dentist. Okay, work in a hospital. You heard me?
Yes. Hi, Omar.
Yeah,
nice to meet you.
Can you introduce yourself, please?
I am Caco. I am Brazilian. I live in Rio de Janeiro. I am a food engineer working in a governmental institution here in Brazil.
Food engineer? Food engineer?
Yes, yes. Yes.
Well, this is first time I heard there is something called food engineer. Can you tell me what food engineer is?
Food engineer is a professional
not
who
engineer
works...
itself. Sorry, Coach. Not engineer itself. I mean, you said food engineer, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
So what
food engineer is a professional who works in the industry of food, in the food industry, in the area of processing and quality of food, mainly. Nowadays, I work in the area of quality in an institute, in a governmental institute in the area of quality in Rio de Janeiro.
So you are nice. So your work depends on monitoring this engineering for or protecting the food.
My work field is accreditation of certifiers of the quality. In this process, the people who works evaluating the companies have to be competent, work with impartiality, and have to be effective communicators, and have to take care, keeping confidentiality about the information who have to be kept confidential. Yeah. For example, when a specialist or an auditor will evaluate a company, he or she have to use standards, international standards, and the regulation, governmental standards to evaluate the products in the system, the quality system of the company. They have to communicate effectively, and they have to keep confidential information as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, you know, something called ISO. It's like a you know, an ISO for the food and the product of these companies.
ISO.
So you
Yes. 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 For example, ISO to
Time is up, guys.
22,000.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I've unshared the screen because I want to talk to you a little bit. Story time. At work, now I can't tell you too much because this is live on the internet, and well, I'm not privy to give out all the information, so I'm going to change some of it. So we're working on a project. It has a duration of 1 month. It's pretty good. The client had somebody else helping them, and they were working on it for about 1.5 years, and nothing happened. So they're very happy about the 1 month. Now, there is a data scrubbing exercise. Data scrubbing is exactly as it sounds. It's cleaning the data. Data scrubbing means we need to clean it. Okay? This team has said, well, we don't mind if you don't even have any data in it. We just want to get it started. They were so tired by the delays, they didn't care if they had data. Well, we told them, you know what, we can get it all done for you within a month, even with the data. They were excited. I said, we do need somebody on your team that can be able to work with us, because they need to be scrubbing the data, not us. We don't understand their data. Now, I was told today that at our next meeting next week, our progress meeting, the senior people are going to be attending. And my understanding is they're going to say, don't worry about bringing in the data. Now, that does save us some time, and it will save them some time. Here's where the communication piece comes in. I hear what they're telling me. Don't worry about bringing in the data. I get that. I understand that. But this will change the scope a little bit. This will not give them what they're looking for. So they have spreadsheets and they have this new system. They will have the data in both places. They have to look in both places. What is the point of building a tool or a system to manage data if we don't import the data? So what I want to do is I want to find out what the issues are. Now, they wanted this thing to be up and running by January. Okay, with a 1 month duration, we can still do that. But I want to find out, is it because the level of effort involved, which isn't a huge, huge amount or very difficult. But I want to find out what the real issue is before we accept. So that's why we need to get together and discuss what's going on. It's not what's being said in this case, it's what's not being said. There's some communication going over with a client that I'm not privy to. I need to find out what that is. Okay? So sometimes with communication, it is not what you're being told, it's what you're not being told that's important. I'm going to give each of you 1 minute, and in that 1 minute, I wanted you to tell me what you've learned in this class, or how this class was useful, or what you think could be done better. Wilson, go ahead. You've got 1 minute.
Okay, I think it's was very useful, this discussion, okay, to extend ideas, and I think it is a good warm-up for other sessions that we can discuss maybe in deeply some other aspects of the project management. And for sure, starting with planning and communication was a very good point. And then for sure I will be in the next meeting, and then I'm sure we can exchange much more information. And thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I am using the project methodology or the framework from PMI, so I'm not making anything up here. And I will be offering more classes focused on each knowledge area.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Wilson. Sure. Your turn.
Okay. I think it is always a good idea to talk about project management. Communication, we know that there is a weakness in every company, in every project, and we need to work a little bit more to learn more how to plan better, how to identify the stakeholders in the beginning and define a better way to communicate them in an effective way. I think I know that it would be very difficult, but if you could, next lesson, maybe we can do a small plan each other and you can check if it is effective or not. Maybe think about on project.
What I'll do is I'll come up with some homework assignments because that's very difficult to do. Remember, the focus of this class is conversation with vocabulary specific to a given field, and in this case, project communications management. If we actually do a plan, you guys won't be talking as much. So I've got to stick within my scope of teaching here, and the scope really is of conversation, communication. It's about conversation. So it's very difficult to do what you asked for in that context.
Yes, I know.
All right, Francisco, you've got a minute. Go ahead, please.
Okay, teacher, I think this is an important class because we are talking about project management and this communication. So I think, well, I think this is an important theme because project management in a company or a project is very important to deliver a good product to the stakeholders or to the client. So I think obviously the most important thing in a group or a team is the communication. So the project manager needs to have well, maybe some experience to transmit all the information from the stakeholders to the developers or to the people developing the project. Well, I think
Sorry, time's up, Francisco. And I hate to cut you off, but you know, with 3 minutes left, I've got to move things along. I don't want anybody to be late for the next class.
Okay.
Edson, your thoughts?
Yes, I like it so much, the class, because I could share my information, my duties that I have, some duties that another guy could get, and improving his job, and I could get some duties that another guy has, and to improve my job as well. And this was extremely helpful for me because some problems that I faced, I can prove it, or I can get it off. For another example that my classmate had, and I could get, now I get that detail that can improve the kind of the way that I am working.
Well, I'm glad that's
And
helping, Edson, and I look
yes,
forward to seeing you tomorrow. All right, thank you very much. Omar, very early in the morning there, your thoughts? Go ahead, Omar.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the most thing that we about is the feeling, drawing the right plan, and they are not thinking about the risk management which may occur. They are not also what we said, the good communication with the other and with the adequate people, and actually also, as you can see, the time limitation of the project. Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. And of course, you see the time constraints I have to work with. And again, guys, the scope I'm working with here is to improve your English vocabulary in a specific area: project management, communications management, terminology that's aligned with the PMI framework. All right, last but not least, Keiko, your thoughts.
Teacher, I liked the class very much. I thank you. I think it was an extraordinary opportunity to develop our vocabulary, to exchange experience, to think about our jobs. It was an extraordinary opportunity. Thank you.
No, you're very welcome.
And thank you, guys.
And guys, if anybody has to leave right now, feel free to leave. I don't want you to be late for your next class. Punctuality is important to me. My last few words: I will continue to offer project management classes in the next coming weeks. I don't do more than about one a week because not everybody likes it, but I do like to offer it. I also may be offering some architecture classes, enterprise architecture related technology. Tomorrow, my class is a fun class. It's 20 questions, and the whole purpose of that class is to have some fun, to play games, and also improve your conversation and deductive reasoning skills. On that note, guys, have yourself a good night. It's good to see some new